Yeah, so you started wingfoiling and you also became a brand manager for Slingshot for Wing, right?
Yeah,
Right.
so I took the brand manager job at Slingshot, and at first that was really easy because we only had like one product and
Uh-huh.
um, didn't really have a team or anything. But now it's taking up like way too much of my time. The workload has tripled since everybody's ordering wings and we're designing new wings and new foils and new harness lines and wrist attachments. I mean, the product development is just going crazy fast, and we're getting new
Mhm.
team riders and expanding our team. And so now, it used to be mostly I was working on windsurf foiling, and I have to admit that now it's like 70% of my time is focused on the wing.
Wow.
It's really the chance for growth for the company is all the
Yeah.
wing.
So the Slingshot V2, so the SlingWing V2 is kind of a like all the test all the tests you can read is like one of the best wings out there. Super nice product. But the V1 had his issues, right? So
Yeah, for sure. The V1, I mean, no one really knew what made a good wing. It's
uh-huh.
like, we need windows. No, we don't need windows. You've got to have, 18 handles. No, we don't have to have 18 handles.
Hmm.
Okay, it's got to have an inflatable trailing edge to give it more rigidity. It was just like, the other thing was that like the whole sport hadn't developed to the point where we knew like where the fun was. Is the fun happening in big rivers when it's blowing 30? Is the fun going downwind? Is the fun jumping? Like, we don't know.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, the V1 was just like, everybody's you kind of seen it with a lot of the brands. It was their, shot in the dark. Like, here's what we think
Hmm.
wind foiling is. And, but then when we started to design the V2, it became really apparent that, at least for the entry level people, and still like probably the majority of winging, the fun thing is getting rid of the power in the wing and focusing on your foil and seeing how long you can keep going on a bump and connecting bump to bump to bump. So we really designed that V2 with like the small leading edge so that it slips through the wind really well. Like, to me,
Hmm.
it's the best. It's the best. It doesn't have the most power of all the wings on the market, but it's the best drifting wing, or drifting, or like riding swell downwind, because anytime you have that big old leading edge, you just feel like you're dragging something as you're trying to ride and connect swells downwind. So that
Hmm.
the whole idea of that V2 is to make it like as light as possible and make it drift and slip through the wind the best when you're just holding it with one hand, and
Yeah.
just have it be super balanced so it's not messing with you as you're trying to connect from swell to swell.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, these are
and
things
that's
that
still what.
when sorry, when I started wing falling, like I mean, first you have no clue what gear to take, right? And you just and when you're learning, you're like, at least my point of view is, it's my fault if I'm not progressing. It's not the fault of my gear. If I'm completely new,
Yeah.
so I try to make the
Sure.
most of what I have. And but yeah, at one point when you get better, you realize like a wing that is kind of like if you just let it go on its leash and it's like driving you crazy, you already know this wing is gonna drive me crazy also when I'm kind of trying drifting it or whatever it is. And also like the big leading edge, yeah, it's kind of like at first for me it was like, do you really have to have such a big leading edge on some wings? And yeah, I kind of get it. It gives you probably like a better direct connection if you're pumping it and stuff like that. But yeah, it also brings some disadvantages, as you said. Like you always have to drag it through the wind and stuff. So
Yeah.
we all
It's
had to learn
it's
probably like what's great and also like what do you want? Where do you need your wing? And
Exactly. That was the
yeah.
thing. The first generation, we were like, nobody knew what we wanted from a wing, like, do we want it to, drift really well? Do we want it
Hmm.
to make us go really fast? Do we want it to help us jump? Do we want it to, disappear? And the hard thing is that you kind of have two choices, right? You can have a small leading edge with a higher pressure, but it's
Hmm.
more flexy and you need extra pressure to really stiffen it out. Or with a bigger leading edge, you can't inflate it as much because it's too much pressure on the seams. If you inflate the big leading edge the same as you would the small, it just rips apart because the seams can't handle that bigger circumference. So you go the huge leading edge, it's nice and stiff, but you can't pump it up very hard. Or you go the small leading edge and you can pump it up harder. It's kind of hard there. I mean, the future is definitely going to be moving towards like that Alula fabric, because you can pump it up insanely high. You can just handle such higher loads without ripping out those seams. So I think everybody should look for the $1,800 wings here in the future made out of Alula, because then you can have that, smaller leading edge. You can pump it up so high that it's the stiffest thing ever. We're going to need some new material sciences to keep pushing this sport, but it's one of the super fun things. I mean, with windsurfing or kiting, those first few years when technology is just leapfrogging like crazy is when it's all exciting.
Yeah.
Except for when you finally get your new wing that you ordered in the spring, and now it's showing up in the winter and there's already something better out. That's a little hard.
Yeah. I mean, you have pros and cons. So, like what we see now is like we see huge progression, and like this year some companies even had like 3 generations out. Most of them had 2 generations of wings out, some had 1, whatever, but there's going to be a lot of progress coming. And yeah, like it should not prevent people from getting into the sport. So that's something, like I already talked to a couple of friends who are windsurfers or kite surfers, and they were like, yeah, I'm going to wait till this at this point in time. And I'm like, dude, if you just want to do it, like don't talk yourself out of the fun. It's so much fun right now. I'm having so much fun. I don't have the perfect gear. I mean, I don't care if there's something better next year. I can still sell my gear because there's no market for used gear right now, at least not in Europe. Like everybody who has gear is keeping it.
Yeah.
Really hard to get something. So if there's something great coming out next year, you can easily sell your gear to a beginner who doesn't want to pay like 3,000-4,000 euros for a whole set. He will be happy to get something that is used. So I don't know, like just start.
Yeah, if you don't start this year, you'll be 1 year older when you do.
Yeah, that's right. So when do you maybe a couple of questions regarding your wing, like the 2 questions that I get from everybody is like windows or no windows? What's your opinion?
No windows for sure. I mean, I know it's so hard because, and I deal with this question every day and have to defend it constantly from all sides. No matter what we choose, we're going to get yelled at by certain distributors and stuff. But my thing is that it's so incredibly rare when you can actually get a good view through the window on the wing. Like the window has to go all the way from the strut to the tip of the wing to really see anything. It's never where you actually are looking. And, you're holding the wing and you're looking in front of you. You can see fine in front of you. It's true you can't see downwind, but like the strut is right in front of your face. And then what are you going to peek over and see the sky through the upper window, or like bend below the strut and try to see through the lower one? It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. You don't have that good a glimpse. Most of your field of view is in front of you anyways. And then you just kind of pull your wrists up a little bit and you can see everything you want. And to me, that it really destroys the feel of the wing. I was talking to Balls. Balls says the same thing. It's like, yeah, the window totally destroys the feel of the wing. You have to fold them special ways. You got to roll them. I think we either need to have, like, if the whole wing was clear, that would be awesome. If we can get some new technology, fabric that is at least somewhat clear and you can sort of see through it, that would be kind of cool. But to me, the window's never actually where you're looking. If you look at 100 and 200 pictures of somebody winging, you can never really see their face through the other side. And they're never looking through the windows that they have anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of ruins the feeling. But I mean, if you're just getting into the sport, you know, it seems like a no-brainer. You're like, do I want one with a window? Of course I want one with a window. But then after you've done it for a few weeks, you're like, well, I never actually can see anything through this window. But right out of the gate, it sounds like a no-brainer, really good idea. But yeah, it ruins the feel of the wing. You can't pack it in as small. I think, you know, on a beginner price point wing, having a big window maybe make everybody feel better. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think you'll see less and less of them in high-end wings just because it seems like a great idea, but in practice, it's never where you actually want to look, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, I'm kind of opinionated about that one.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been in your team for a long time, but I also see like two reasons to get a window. Like for me, like in low wind, being I'm not able to just flick up my wing, you know, and because I'm really like struggling to use every little bit of the wind. And for me, it just happened a couple of times that I didn't see a little fisher boat coming, you know, like that was downwind from me, something like that. So you kind of lose like 50 degrees of your surround view and your orientation. But I mean, obviously, I'm also not like looking for the last 5% in my gear. So that's something that I felt, and also like on the river. So that's why I thought maybe you have the same problems. Like I really want to make sure that I don't miss a cargo ship, something like that. And they're usually like directly on the upper side of my wing. They're not in front of me. They're not behind me. They're not upwind. They're hiding behind my wing.
Hiding behind the wing. It's true. Yeah. It is true. I mean, it might be beneficial in some circumstances, but you're always going to have a blind spot. Like I went and polled like tons of intermediate wingers who have used a lot of the different wings, some with windows and some without the windows. And basically the consensus is like, there's still a blind spot. No matter how good your window is, there's still a pretty huge blind spot. So you still end up kind of lifting the wing or trying to look around. I mean, with the windsurf sail, we got, you know, the huge window, but you still have a pretty big blind spot, and I still run into people all the time. So
yeah.
It's just a fact of out there being in traffic is you're going to sort of get in people's way or turn when you're not supposed to. I don't know.
Got it. So no window
I think
for
you
you.
Have a completely clear wings. People are still going to be running into each other.
Yeah, that's a different reasons probably. Right. Okay, so I hear you. So no window. So the second question that everybody gets, and I probably guess you get them also, is like boom or no boom.
Boom or no boom.
Handles or boom. What do you think?
Handles or boom. So being a windsurfer, like I was like, boom, no boom. I wasn't that into a boom. And then we had some prototype wings with a boom. And being a windsurfer, you're like, oh yeah, I'm at home now. Like this is what I'm used to. I kind of like this, but you just can't get over like the weight thing. You know, it does add a lot of weight, but it also allows you to like, you know, hold that boom and be sort of sheeted in when you're luffing too. So it's got a lot of advantages there. The big thing for me, I like the boom. I like the handles for being lighter. I feel like I like the boom more because I'm a windsurfer. But my problem is that the boom still, you don't have any wrist control like that. It's still floppy in the tail end, so you don't have any wrist control. The future is going to be when we all have totally rigid handles that wrap around the strut so that you can roll your wrists like that. The second you give me one of those, like all of us freestyle windsurf guys are going to be doing like the big air flockas and backwinding it and doing burners. Like right now I'm going backwinded, putting my hands inside the handles, like holding the strut. And then I'm trying to do an air spin and I'm like grabbing back to the handle. The future is really like detachable, hard handles that have hard plastic that wraps around the strut that gives you wrist control. And the boom doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the boom is not the future. The detachable hard handles that you can move up and down the strut and perfectly place, that's the future.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I had a prototype the other day that had a carbon boom that was kind of nice because it was pretty light. Not as light as handles, obviously, but it was pretty light. But I also had
Yeah.
exactly that problem that I felt like, especially on the carbon, you have it was pretty. There was no rubber on it or something like that, so it was also a little bit hard to grab it perfectly, and it felt like you're losing your wrist control or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
I think all the handle technology right now is not that great, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to change a lot for sure.
Nice. So when's the first? What do you think? Who's gonna be the first one with? I always pronounce it wrong. Like Alula? Is it Alula?
Yeah, Lula fabric.
Yeah, Alula fabric.
um, I think everybody's going to push towards. I think F1's going to come out with it pretty soon. I think the duotone will have it. I mean, I think that the market is ready for the $2,000 wing, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are willing, who just want the best thing ever, and price is not really an issue. You know, so wings are already like $800 or $900, and now they're going to be like double that, which is going to be a little hard to stomach. But I mean, that's the price of kites, right?
Mm,
So I think, you know, most companies will come out with two versions. There'll have to be an Alula super expensive version, and then, you know, a regular version.
mm-hmm.
Um, we need some more material scientists out there to keep working really hard on fabrics and make us some crazy revolutionary fabric, because that is really going to change the whole design side of these wings. I mean,
Yeah.
if you could have the tiniest leading edge ever, but the thing is stiff like it's, you know, made out of carbon, there's no telling what kind of crazy stuff you can do. I mean, we'll just keep turning them more and more into hang gliders, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, like you just mentioned it, like there's probably a very expensive wing coming our ways with great fabric, but well, I mean the difference for kite surfing is like in kiting, I have maybe two or three kites, and that's my main expenses, right? I have a bar and I have a board. So, but the bar and the board is not as expensive as in wingfoiling. So, wingfoiling, I have a more expensive board. I mean, okay, your windsurfers are a different animal. You have like 10K gear just for free riding, and then you have your
Yeah.
racing gear and your wave gear. But what do you feel like? Where are we heading there? I can already tell. Like a couple of friends of mine are like, I don't want to invest 4K into wing foiling. Like it's too expensive right now. So do you think we're going prices up or prices down? What do you think?
Oh, that's a good question. Are we going prices up or prices down? Well, I think that when a used market emerges here in the next couple of years, that'll bring some prices down. But uh, I I think you have both ends, you know. So we're going to see the price for the good wings go way up, but we'll also see tons of companies releasing a price point wing made
Mm-hmm.
from, you know, worse material, you know, without the huge quality control that we have in like the really good kite factories, but, you know, switching to another factory that making a less good product for cheaper. Because one of the things you have to think here is that like the windsurfers and the kiters, of course, are the early adopters to this sport,
Mm-hmm.
but the huge market opportunity here is the sup population, because basically, you know, you have so many people who own a sup or own three sups, and with this wing thing, you can be like, you can buy a wing, you can get on your sup, and I guarantee you're going to go faster than you've ever paddled that thing before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to add this like whole new level of fun. So the really big market opportunity is the sup community. And like at Slingshot, we made that help design the sup winder. It's basically a stick-on A box that goes in the bottom of your sup with a big old keel fin, so that you can
Mm-hmm.
stay upwind and learn how to wing back and forth on the sup that you already own.
Mm-hmm.
And like those things have sold thousands of units already, and we just haven't really, you know, as first people in the sport, the kiters and the windsurfers, we got to do a good job of reaching out to the SUP market, because there's so many people who own a SUP, and it could be like the heyday of windsurfing all over again, where every lake was full of people on longboard windsurfers with brightly colored sails cruising around, because you have that huge community of suppers who are out on that lake in light winds paddling around. And if we can, like, the SUP winder is one key tool, the next key tool is going to be that price point SlingWing, and that's going to really grow the whole sport once we can reach out to that SUP community and give them a wing that'll let them go even faster than they've ever paddled before. It's just, it makes so much sense, but we haven't crossed that channel yet.
Get down.